ran a story about how difficult it is becoming in Harrisburg to get any traction for Republicans in the State House of Representatives.
Yes.
Of course, Democrats would say, well, it's welcome to our life because it's been like them for that for them for a long time. Now the tables are turned. But it does get frustrating when you're the minority party, doesn't it?
It's very much frustrating because you have good pieces of legislation that you're working on, things that will help your communities, things that are essential and important that need to move forward. And because of the balance of power in Harrisburg right now, a lot of those bills are just going to sit there. They won't get moved out of committee. And as you said, it's very frustrating because you know that you've put a lot of hard work into those bills. All these bills I've been working on for several years now, and you'd love to see them come to fruition. I mean, but the other side of that is that's why it's so important to have good relationships. And I do have good relationships with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. So I'm still continuing to work with the chairman of the committees, both the majority and minority chairman, to try and move these bills forward because they are important.
Well, and that's the political system in which we operate now. And so you have to find your ways to make what you typically do work.
Yes.
And so you have some initiatives that you'd like to see happen. Reggie is one of those things that will be an ongoing issue that seems ever more destined to be a court decision more than anything else. What do you hear on Reggie? Because it seems to have gone onto the back burner for quite some time now.
Yeah, my understanding was there were going to be some oral arguments in court last week. So it's been stuck in the court system for several months now. I think it could stay there as far as I'm concerned. But, unfortunately, you look at the Homer City generating station, and I think the damage from Reggie has already been done to us here locally. The loss of the jobs, the power plant, the shutdown looming, the 4 years of the Wolf administration continuing to push Reggie has simply forced these big energy companies to invest in other states. And I speak regularly with the power plant. Senator Pittman and I met with the ownership, along with the governor and the secretary of DCED, a month or so in Harrisburg, and they're already taking these employees to other states. So that's what's unfortunate. And I really feel for the people in our communities that are losing their jobs. 129 direct jobs, 400 indirect jobs, plus the impact on Homer Center School District, the impact on Center Township, the loss of tax revenue potentially. So, we're going to do everything we can to try and help. Labor and industry has been in. So we have been screaming from the rooftops, myself, Senator Pittman, the planning department, the commissioners, working with the federal government as well to try and leverage every resource we can to help Homer City, the Homer City generating station.
Other issues that are out there that I know are close to your heart, mental health here in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It's been on the front burner now for over a year now, I think, and you're part of the coalition that is trying to attack mental health problems, maybe from a new angle, maybe from just renewed vigor into the old system of looking at the way we handle mental health. Where does that stand in your mind in Harrisburg? Is there progress being made?
I think there is, yes, Todd. Obviously, more and more people are realizing that we need to invest resources into mental health care, behavioral health care. I have several pieces of legislation, as you know, that I've been working on for several years now to try and address some of those needs. We had the $100 million that was allocated from the federal funds that were given to the state last year that haven't been used. We allocated those as part of the budget process last year. So Representative Schlossberg is one of the co-chairs of the Mental Health Caucus, along with myself. He put forth a piece of legislation that we're working on together to try and allocate those funds. Some of it could come to the counties, some for the creation of new facilities like the one that IRMC is working on, some to other entities that provide mental health resources. In addition to that, the governor has proposed $20 million to come back to the counties in this year's budget, another $100 million for school districts. So there is at least an allocation of funds to help with mental health issues in our community. So I'm going to continue to try and champion getting those dollars back to the people that can really use them. And in my opinion, that's really giving them to the county where the boots hit the ground as far as delivering those mental health services that people need.
Budget is obviously a big topic at this time of the year. We're now June 1st, which means we're in the window. Now, by June 30th, state budget is constitutionally mandated to be in place. Sometimes we don't hit that mark.
Right.
Where do the talks stand? How hopeful are you?
Oh, it's going to be a challenge, I think. We're going to really dig into it in earnest this coming week when we return to Harrisburg. Harrisburg. As you said, the deadline is only a month away now at this point, and we'd like to see that deadline met, if not beforehand. We moved a budget bill last week in Harrisburg, and it was contentious already. There's a lot of spending proposed. The governor's a $46 billion budget that he is proposing. That's a $2.5 billion increase from last year's budget. Where do those funds come from? I know people look at the rainy day fund, which is our reserves. They look at the revenues that we have right now in reserve, but you can't draw those down because there is the threat of a structural deficit looming. So as we look at inflation, as we look at the cost of everyday goods and services increasing, we have to make sure that we're planning for those out years as well. So there's going to be a lot of give and take, and I know that it's going to be a challenge. But again, there are also needs that need to be met out there, particularly in the healthcare community. I'm an advocate for increasing the reimbursement rates for home healthcare workers, for direct service or direct support professionals as well. Early childhood education professionals are underpaid. So there's a lot of things that we need to shift around in this year's budget. The PASHE funding is one of them. The state system asked for an increase that the governor did not include in his budget, and so without the increase that the PASHE system has asked for, they could be looking at a potential tuition increase, which wouldn't be good for us here locally because we want to see more students coming back to IUP. So there's a whole bunch of things in the budget right now that are going to have to be leveled out, and we're working on that behind the scenes. I have my spreadsheet on my desk that I'm continuing to go through, and meeting after meeting with people, asking for budgetary requests and being a part of the Appropriations Committee. We're going to be really digging into that here in the next few weeks.
Is there pushback when it comes to the PASHE budget? Because last year they got so much more than we had been allocating to them previously. And they asked for special funding, and they got special funding.
Yes.
And now they're back asking for more. And are people saying, "Oh, well, wait just a second. We didn't think we'd have to deal with this again, especially not so soon"?
I think there are some individuals that will look at it that way, but we did put it on the system, on the chancellor, to write the system, and they've done the hard work to do that. Went through a lot of painful years recently to try and get the state system where it can be functional in the way that it was intended, which is affordable education for Pennsylvania students. So I think that we need to look at that and consider what would it mean if we didn't give them that funding. So we certainly don't want to see tuition increase, and I think it's very telling when during our budget hearings we asked the chancellor, if you get this increase, will you need to increase tuition? And he said no. But we asked the same question to all of the state-related schools, Pitt, Penn State, Temple, and they all said, yes, we'd still have to increase tuition. And so when you look at it that way, you have a state system that is owned by the state that says, if you give us this, we're not going to increase tuition. I think that deserves to be rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Basic education funding in Pennsylvania is an issue as well, especially after the Commonwealth Court decision.
Yes.
Is it proving to be the problem that it seemed that it would be?
Well, I think it is. I think we want to make sure that we are, providing fair funding and make sure that the funding goes where the students are. I know that the Education Committee is taking a close look at that now following the court decision. I don't know where the progress is, but it is a big topic of discussion in Harrisburg, absolutely.
All right, so you're back in Harrisburg on Monday.
Yes, we are.
What are some of the things you'd like to see happen in the next week or two?
Well, I'd like to see some of my legislation move through the committee process. This session, I'm on transportation, which is new for me, also on human services, and then again on appropriations. All those committees are big, important communities. As you know, human services is the largest piece of the Pennsylvania state budget, so we want to make sure that a lot of those specific needs are addressed, while at the same time creating more transparency with the Department of Human Services, because they do get the largest chunk of the state budget. Transportation needs are eminent and ongoing. Our infrastructure, the creation of good, sound roads and bridges and maintenance are very important. So we have to look at how we're funding transportation as well. There's a lot of talk about electric vehicles and the fact that you're not getting as much revenue from the gas tax as you did previously. And so there's a lot of hard work ahead of us, a lot of pending legislation, and I'm going to continue to try and work with the chairman, to try and work with the committees to get my bills to move as well.
You spent a lot of years in PennDOT, and so you know that organization, you know
Yes.
that agency very, very well. In the last 5 or 10 years, there has been increasing news about crumbling bridges all across Pennsylvania and how bad the situation really is.
Yes.
You know that probably as well as anybody. How does it stand? Is it as bad as the picture that's being painted?
I think it absolutely is, and the lack of sufficient funding to address those needs is something that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. How do we raise those revenues? The shifting of the state police from the motor license fund is a big discussion as well that we're having in Harrisburg. We want to make sure, obviously, that we're funding the state police, and in my opinion, it should be part of the general fund. Not the motor license fund, which we are gradually taking them out of that. But then that money can come back to PennDOT to repair the roads and bridges. But the needs still outweigh the amount of resources we have right now. That's why we have to look at things like a possible fee on electric vehicles because they're not paying the gas tax. Mm-hmm. And yet we're seeing, more and more of those vehicles on the road. They're heavy. They do have an impact on our roads and bridges. So we have to find a way to provide adequate resources to PennDOT to address these needs.
A lot of headaches. My goodness gracious. So you've been able to spend some time in Indiana County recently. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Well, we're going to be at Salzburg's Canal Days this weekend. I'll have a table set up. I'll be there on Saturday as part of the parade. I'll spend some time at Canal Days. I'll have my staff there, so people are welcome to come and say hello. Sign up for our weekly emails. We put out an email every Friday updating what's happening in Harrisburg and here in the district. You can go to repstruzzi.com, or you can sign up on over the weekend at Canal Days. And then we'll be out at a lot of community events this year. Obviously, with the fair, we're going to have a presence at Climber Days, the Hoodlebug Fest, Knotweed Festival. We've been doing the license plate exchanges. We did one of those just a couple of weeks ago in Blairsville that was successful, even though it was kind of a rainy day. So we're going to be out and about in the community a lot this summer.
Going canoeing again this year?
We are not going to kayak this year. No, I'm not going to be able to, unfortunately.
Too bad. Too bad.
It is fun, though, and I applaud the Chamber for continuing the paddle and picnic in Blairsville.
There you go. He is State Representative Jim Struzzi. Thanks for the visit.
Thanks for having me, Todd. Thanks, everyone.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.